Hello everyone, this is Miss Janelle with the Ella Johnson Library, and we are here today for another episode of Little Stitches. Now, you're probably wondering what all of the stuff on the table is in front of me. Well, today for our kit, we are going to be doing wet felting. Now, I'm sure you've seen felt, we've played with it, we've made crafts with it, but did you know that you can make felt yourself? It's very easy. So, in your kit that you picked up from the library, you should have a couple of weird looking fuzzy pom-pom balls and a plastic bag. Now that doesn't sound like a whole lot because you're going to use some items from your own house. So make sure that you have hot water, liquid soap, something to mix it in, a towel or a few towels, and a cookie sheet. This is what I'm going to use today, a little round cookie sheet. Now, first things first, we need to understand what it is that we're working with. So, this fuzzy looking cotton ball is roving. Now, you're probably wondering what that means. Well, roving is wool, and it is wool before it's made into anything. So, what happens is they shear a sheep, sometimes an alpaca, and they wash the hair, and then they brush it. And I'm sure you've seen a brush like this. It's the same kind of brush that you would use to brush your dog's hair or your cat's hair. And that's called carding. So they go back and forth and they brush it until all the lines of the wool or roving are straight lines like that. And this is what we use to do felting. Now there's a couple different types of felting. There is needle felting, where you take this and you poke it a bunch of times with a needle, and then there is wet felting, where we're using the friction of our hands and soap and water to create something. So I'm going to be creating a flat, two-dimensional piece, and I decided today that I wanted to make a piece that is a bunny rabbit. So I'm going to start with this beautiful turquoise color, and that is going to be the back half of my, I'm going to call it a wool painting, we'll say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out first. And I want to spread it a little bit because this is basically going to be like the piece of paper that I'm going to build my bunny rabbit on. So I have all of these beautiful fibers here. I'm going to stretch it and pull it and stretch it and pull it, but not too far apart, because what we're going to do is we're going to lay all of the roving together, and then we're going to add soapy water and use our hands and roll and roll and roll and create friction to cause the roving to stick together. So that's going to be the base layer. Now I'm going to build a bunny rabbit. And I'm going to use this really beautiful color here that's kind of like a tan color. And for this, I'm going to pull it apart because I want to have a tiny bunny. So what you can do, you can kind of separate it here. I'm going to kind of create like a little knotted ball, so to speak. And I'm going to start working on the bunny rabbit's body here. Can you see that? Now the fun thing about wet felting is you don't need to do a lot to make your piece, but it's going to come out a little bit abstracted. So keep that in mind as you're building your piece here. All right, so I have the body and the head of my bunny rabbit. And then we're going to create a little tuft of tail with this tiny little piece here. Just going to ball it up. Actually, I think I might want to divide it in half because that might be too big of a tail for this bunny. And I'm going to gently place it on here. You don't have to pull or push too hard. As long as it sticks to it, that'll work. Now, I need to create the ears of my bunny rabbit. So, I'm just taking very little, as you can see. I'm going to roll it a little. It's very similar to working with like a cotton ball. Excellent, look at that. It's a perfect little bunny rabbit here. Place that where I want it. And I'm going to take the same amount here kind of balling it, pulling, twisting, however you want to do to get it to stick together. It's very fuzzy, so it will stick to itself. You don't have to worry about it separating too much, because what happens is these fibers have been brushed, so they're all very in a straight line. So when you start adding friction, just like you would rub a balloon on a piece of fabric, it creates this like static that forces the fibers to stick together. All right, so I have my bunny rabbit going here. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of this beautiful pink color. It looks like cotton candy. And I'm going to put just a little bit on the inside of the ears. And maybe make a little nose as well. And like I said, a little bit goes a long way. So like that's probably even too much to do the inside of the bunny rabbit ear. Yep, we're going to need to do a little bit less. The kit that you got from the library will have a couple colors, and what I suggest doing before you start playing with it is to sketch out the idea that you would like to do, and then kind of figure out how you want the colors to work, and then start pulling it together. Basically make a little design for yourself to follow, and it'll be a lot easier to work with. I usually do more abstract shapes and fun landscapes when I do this, but today I thought I would try a bunny rabbit. I don't do a whole lot of animals, so we'll see how it turns out. See if I like it and what other ways I can do it to make it look a little bit neater. So this is going to be the bunny nose. I don't know if you can see that, but it is very tiny. And what I did was I basically just balled it up tight as I could into a little ball. And we're going to hopefully get it to stick where I want it to go. We'll see. Excellent. All right. Now I'm going to take this wonderful black. It's just very beautiful black color. And I'm going to make two little dots for the eyes using the same technique I did. We're rolling it between my fingers here to create the eyes for the bunny rabbit. It's so small you can't even see it. But we have one eye, and now we just need to make the second one here. And again, we're just rolling it between our forefinger and our thumb. And that one's a little bit too big, so I'm going to pinch some of it off here. Now, if you didn't pick up a kit from the library, no problem. You can go onto Amazon, you can go to your local knitting store, and you can get colored roving, which is what we have today, or you can get plain uncolored roving, which is this white one here. This one actually has been bleached, so you can get unbleached, which would be more of a creamy color. You can dye it yourself. You can dye it with Kool-Aid, you can dye it with Rit dye, you can dye it with all kinds of things, or you can get the pre-colored like we did. It's relatively inexpensive, so if you do want to continue to do this, you can. And like I said, a little bit goes a long way. So you can see we have the tail, the bunny, ears, eyes, nose. I think I'll add just a couple little tufts to suggest that there are feet. It's very hard to make really detailed things when you're doing wet felting. Needle felting is a little bit easier because as you're putting it down, you're poking it with the needle to make it stick. This is a little bit, like I said, more abstract. So being looser with the shapes and doing things that are more of a suggestion of a shape is better to work with. So we'll kind of just make little bunny legs here. All right, this is going to be the fun part. So we have to take what we made and we have to put it inside a plastic bag. Now, you have to do this very gently. And if it doesn't fit in your plastic bag, that's okay. You can kind of squish it a little bit because as we rub it with the water, the soapy water, it will begin to shrink. So I have my bunny secure in the bag, and we want to close the bag about 2/3 of the way and put water into it. If it's too hard for you to do it with just part of the bag closed, I'm going to leave it open so you can see. We're going to put our soapy water mixture in there. So in here I have very hot water, and I would suggest having a parent or guardian help you with this part because we're going to need to use very warm water. In your instructions, what we need to do is have 1 part soap to 3 parts water. So I'm going to use this as my measuring cup. I'm going to scoop in here. So we need 3 parts water. 1, 2, 3. Now, this should be enough to fill the bag to do what I need to do. We're going to save that hot water because we're going to need to use it later. And we need a lot of soap in this mixture, so I'm going to fill this up. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's too much soap. But that's exactly what you need. 3 parts water, 1 part soap. Now, we're going to gently mix it. You can use any dish soap that you have, liquid hand soap. Those will all work lovely. And it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of color to your soap, that's totally fine. It's not going to stay on the wool for very long, so it shouldn't add any color to it. Now I use this blue soap so that you can see that there is a lot of soap in this water. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill the bag just enough to wet the wool. That's all we need to do, is just wet the wool. So you may not use the whole entire thing, which is totally fine. But you want to make sure that we're putting enough water in there to wet the wool. So you can see it's starting to wet a little bit, but we're going to need a little bit more because it's going to absorb quite a bit of the water. So I'm going to keep pouring in here very slowly. All right. Now I think we have enough water here. So make sure that you do your bag just enough. This is the fun part. So we have our cookie sheet. Now we're going to put a towel over it, like so, because a little bit of water is going to leak out as we're rubbing this together. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay it flat on our towel on the cookie sheet, like so. And then, this is my favorite part, we're just going to go like this. We're going to rub it, and we're going to create a bubble bath. And it's okay if a little bit of the water comes out. Actually, that's better if a little bit of the water comes out. So what we're doing is we're causing friction, and it's creating this bubble bath, basically, and the wool is going to be sticking together. And you want to do this for a couple minutes. And I can see that some of my design is already kind of separating in a way that's not good. It's kind of pushing the bunny rabbit ears away. So you can go in there and fix it a little bit. My eyes of my bunny rabbit are kind of becoming one eye, so I'm going to kind of push those apart a little bit as well. And then I'm going to reseal the bag, get some of that air out, and then just keep running my hands over it. You can see here, my tail's starting to kind of drift away from the rest of the bunny as well. So I'm going to kind of fix it a little bit. Now this will happen because, again, like I said, we're creating friction and we're using soapy water, and it's a lot going on in there. So I kind of do little circles, and you can see that it looks like it's having a bubble bath, but you can see also that the shapes are kind of moving and shifting, which is totally fine, and that's what you expect. So after I think that I've gotten my shapes into a good enough place, we're going to get a little bit of the air and a little bit of the water out, and we're going to completely seal the bag. Then we're going to take the towel that we used and we're going to roll it up into a little bundle. That's what it's going to look like, just a little towel log. And then we're going to take it, put it, we're going to roll it and roll it and roll it and keep rolling it. You can use a rolling pin in the middle to kind of help you if you want to. wrap it around a rolling pin. But this is basically what we call agitation, and we're agitating the materials inside of the bag so that we can get it to stick together. And you want to do this for quite a long time. If your hands get tired, switch it off to your parent. Maybe try using your feet to roll it. Do you have a brother or sister? Get them in on the fun. See how quickly you can roll it. See how slow you can roll it. We just want to keep moving. And you want to do this for about 5, 7, 10 minutes. It really depends on your design. So we're going to check it and we're going to see. Ooh, yes, this is looking good. I'm going to gently pull my bunny out of here. Can you see how it got really, really compact? That's what we're looking for. That's why we keep rolling, 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 rolling it together. So it's not quite ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck it back into the bag and I'm going to keep rolling it. What we're going to do is we're going to test for pull. So this pulls too easily still. We want to make sure that's nice and tight. So this area is nice and tight. So we want the rest of it to be like that as well. So we're going to keep rolling it until we get it as tight as we possibly can. Now it's going to not be as tight as, say, like the wool or knitting on your shirt, but it should be close enough to where we don't have any holes or it's not breaking or coming apart. So just keep rolling your design. Get you a little exercise and just pretend that you're giving your design a little bubble bath because we're creating so many bubbles. We use the soap basically as a lubricant for the wool, and it lubricates the fibers and helps them stick together. If you did it with just water, it would work, but it wouldn't create a lasting bond on your design. And that's what we're looking for. We want our design to stay together. All right, now let's take another look at this. I feel like she might be good this time because we did it pretty, and you see all that soapiness in there. That's exactly what you want it to be, really soapy. So now, this is the other fun part. We're going to gently take our design out of the bag. Look at that. That is an abstracted little bunny. Looks a little scared, but that's okay. We lost a little bit of the nose shape. Let me wipe that off there, you can see. The eyes flattened out a little bit. The nose kind of went a little wonky. And then the shift in the ears kind of happened, but that's okay. That's what happens when you start rolling it together. Now, if you absolutely hate it, what you can do is go back and add more wool and then start the process all over again. So I could add a little bit more wool here, put it back in the bag, add a little bit more water to dampen it, scratch it with my fingers, and then go back into the rolling. You can keep doing that until you have enough of the design that you want. Now, I'm okay with this. I think it kind of looks interesting. Kind of looks like a little scared bunny rabbit. So if you're completely satisfied with what you did, now we're going to do the last steps. And the last steps require some hot water and a tub of cold water. So I have my hot water in this little one, cold water in here. We're basically going to complete our bubble bath. We're going to dip this in here. We're going to gently slosh it around a little bit to get the soap off. This is what we want to do. We want to get the soap off. And you feel, I can wring it a little bit. You can feel it coming out, and you should see a lot of the soap in the water. And this might take you a couple times. You might have to go and get another cup of water and do it again. If you have a sink, I would suggest doing it in there because then it's just easy to refill, and it doesn't have to be scalding hot. It could be warm water as long as it's nice and warm and kind of gets the soap off. Now don't squeeze too hard because you might run the risk of making your piece stick together. And after you have gotten as much soap as you possibly can out, we're going to shock it by putting it in the cold water. And what that's going to do is that's going to take the temperature of the wool, drop it significantly. You want to make sure this water is very cold. And it's going to basically freeze the item in place. So we're going to keep all of our wool kind of stuck in place. All right, this one you can give it a good squeeze. All that soapy water out of there. All right. And there is my finished piece. So now what we need to do is you need to put it out on a towel, lay it flat, and let it dry. And that's it. That is wet felting. Now, it might take 24 to 72 hours for it to fully dry. I like to actually leave mine in a sunny window. That helps the drying a little bit more. But that is wet felting. Super easy, very fun. Not messy, but definitely you need to do it in a kitchen or a bathroom. And you can create an abstract design, you can create a bunny rabbit, whatever you want. I hope you had fun here with me today at Little Stitches. I will see you guys again very soon at the library, and have fun.